Joining me now, Dan Ives, Managing Director and Senior Equity Research Analyst at Wedbush Securities. Dan, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, great to be here.
So I want to get your reaction to Nvidia's results. It was a beat on both the top and bottom line. The stock has been both higher and lower this morning, down about 2% right now. You walked away from those results feeling what?
Feeling more bullish because when you factor even in the China numbers, I mean, this is ultimately really just the start of an acceleration for Nvidia across the board. And even though some will pick at maybe the data center numbers and saying it wasn't as good as expectations, I think when you factor it in, this is ultimately going to be, when you talk about China, it could be a $50 billion market next year.
But the data center revenue was a miss. So what does that tell you about AI momentum?
Look, I think this is just what I view, especially with China, just more a little transitional. I mean, when you look at data center over the coming quarters, you're actually going to see an acceleration. I think TheStreet's still underestimating growth by 25 to 30%. That continues to be our focus. And look, me and you have talked about it before. It's very easy to get caught up in these knee-jerk reactions. I think overall, these are numbers that make you more bullish, not less.
But can the momentum continue without China? Because we did learn that China sold no H20 chips to China during the quarter. We don't necessarily know when that business could pick back up, and we know that Chinese competition continues to heat up. So can we see the stock continue to rally? We've already seen this impressive run-up without China.
Look, China is a key part of not just the AI revolution, but of course for Nvidia itself. So that is going to play a huge role. But it's our view that the biggest chip on the poker table is Nvidia when it comes to US China. And I do think that the green light will be there. It's a pay for play model. And I think when you start to factor China revenue in, that's where this is a game changer to the story. They're being conservative, but I think the street will continue to see through it.
So what is the biggest risk to Nvidia right now, Dan?
Look, the biggest risk is obviously about China, right? They're caught in the crossfire, U.S. and China. If, a war of words, if they continue to sort of see delays, that is a huge part of the upside in the story. But like I've said, I think it's just a matter of time till that gets green lighted. And even when you look at H20, you look at some sort of restricted Blackwell chip, that's ultimately where I see the future in terms of Nvidia selling into China.
Did we get any more understanding from the earnings call about when we could see that green light for China?
Look, I think this is something that we're probably going to see in the next 45, 60 days. I do believe at one point this quarter, we ultimately start to see that come through. Timing will be an issue, but I think Nvidia, look, if you look at Jensen, he's 10% politician, 90% CEO.
So you have your sights set on 5 trillion market cap for Nvidia. When does it hit 5 trillion?
I think by early 26. And I look, the doubters will continue to be there. But to me, this is really just the next phase of the story now set to play out. And I think not just for Nvidia, but I think overall tech, you walk away from these numbers feeling more bullish about the thesis.
So Nvidia, of course, was the last of the Mag 7 to report. What's the next catalyst for tech stocks then?
Well, the next catalyst is clearly going to be U.S.-China, right? Like what we see in terms of deals, chip, more of a pay-for-play model. I think that continues to be the big focus from a tech perspective.
And what's priced in at these levels? Where do tech stocks go from here?
Look, I think tech stocks are up another 8 to 10% rest of the year. I think you now have the validation that we see in terms of these names, and I think these stocks continue to move higher based on everything we see playing out across not just earnings but our checks.
So when we last spoke in June, I asked if you could only buy one tech stock then, what would it be? And you said Palantir. I'm switching my question. If you could only buy one Mag 7 stock right now, which would it be?
It would have to be Nvidia because there's only one chip fueling the AI revolution, and that continues to be godfather of AI, Jensen, Nvidia.
Okay, so Dan, I have some this or that questions for you. I know you're bullish on the overall space. I know you're bullish on AI, but I want to get you to make some choices here. More upside from here, Tesla or Nvidia?
Tesla.
Better AI winner over the next 12 months, Alphabet or Microsoft?
Microsoft.
More resilient if the consumer slows, Apple or Amazon?
Apple.
Better AI moat, Microsoft or Amazon?
Clearly Microsoft.
Bigger AI beneficiary over the next 5 years, semiconductors or software?
Software, because I continue to think the use cases will really be the golden goose for AI.
But Nvidia is still the name that you would pick, so still top pick of Nvidia.
Yes. Now, I have one for you.
Sure.
So, in the Super Bowl, Giants or Jets?
No, Bills. Bills all the way. All right, a few more, Dan. If you had to go all in on one theme right now, AI, cloud, or cybersecurity?
AI.
More vulnerable to regulation, Alphabet or Meta?
Well, Alphabet, clearly, because of the DOJ.
Which Mag 7 stock has the most China risk?
That would have to be Nvidia because of everything that we've talked about.
Sleeper tech stock that's not talked about enough?
I would have to say Pegasystems.
Pegasus. Better SaaS pick, Salesforce or Snowflake?
Snowflake.
Which Mag 7 member falls out of the group first?
None.
Bigger bubble risk right now, AI stocks or EV stocks?
Neither. There's no bubble risk.
All right, and finally, Mag 7 name that tests your bullishness the most?
Probably Tesla because they're in a transition to the AI stage.
But still bullish.
So bullish, 2 trillion market cap.
All right, and just finally, Dan, going back to Nvidia, I didn't see any price target changes in your note. So you're more bullish on Nvidia, but not bullish enough to raise your price target.
210 base case, 250 bull case price target.
All right, we'll leave it there. Dan Ives, always appreciate you joining us. Thank you.